The massive chamber stretched out like a metal canyon, its walls reaching so high they disappeared into shadows. Thousands of seats filled the space, each one holding a different kind of alien being. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others had scales that glittered under the bright lights. A few looked almost human, but their eyes were too large, or their skin was the wrong color. Captain Jiwan stood in the center of it all, alone on a small platform. Her black hair was pulled back tight, and her blue uniform looked plain next to all the fancy alien clothing around her. She kept her hands at her sides and her back straight, even though every alien in the room was staring at her like she was some kind of bug. Above her, Admiral Taemin floated in a gravity field. He was one of the hegemony leaders, and his purple skin seemed to glow with its own light. When he spoke, his voice came out of speakers all around the chamber, making it sound like the voice of a god. "Human," Taemin said, and the word sounded like an insult. "Your species has had 3 years to consider our generous offer. 3 years to see the wisdom of joining the galactic hegemony. Yet you continue to resist." Jiwan did not move. She had practiced this moment for months, knowing that one wrong word could mean war for every human world. Behind her she could hear the soft sounds of alien languages as the different species whispered to each other. "We have been patient," Taemin continued. "More patient than your primitive species deserves. When you first stumbled into faster-than-light travel, we welcomed you. We offered you protection. We offered you knowledge. We offered you a place in the greatest civilization the galaxy has ever known." An alien that looked like a giant insect clicked its mandibles in what might have been laughter. Another one, covered in thick fur, made a sound like a growling dog. They all thought this was funny. They all thought humans were just another weak species that would bow down like all the others. Jiwan had read the history files. For 10,000 years, the galactic hegemony had been growing. Every time they found a new species, the same thing happened. First came the friendly contact, then came the offers of help and trade, then came the demands. Join us or be destroyed. It worked every time until now. Your military consists of cargo ships with weapons bolted on, Taemin said. Your technology is crude. Your understanding of the universe is limited. What could you possibly hope to gain by standing against us? The chamber fell silent. This was the moment. Jiwan took a deep breath and looked up at the floating admiral. When she spoke, her voice was calm and clear. "Admiral Taemin, honored members of the Galactic Council, I thank you for your patience. I have consulted with my government, and I am authorized to give you our final answer." She paused, looking around the massive room. Thousands of alien eyes watched her. Some were curious, some were angry. Most just looked bored, like they were watching a play they had seen too many times before. "We decline your generous offer of subjugation." The silence that followed was so complete that Jiwan could hear her own heartbeat. Then the chamber exploded with noise. Aliens jumped to their feet, or whatever they had instead of feet. They made sounds of rage and disbelief. How dare this human refuse them? Taemin raised one hand and the noise stopped instantly. His purple skin was now glowing brighter, and his large eyes were fixed on Jiwan like laser beams. "You refuse?" he said. "You would rather see your species destroyed than accept our protection?" "We would rather remain free," Jiwan said. An alien that looked like a walking tree made a sound like wind through leaves. "Freedom is an illusion, human. There is only strength and weakness. You are weak." "Perhaps," Jiwan said, but we are still free. Taemin floated down until he was just above Jiwon's head. Up close, she could see that his skin was not really purple but made of tiny scales that shifted color in the light. His breath smelled like flowers that had been left too long in water. "Your cargo ships cannot stand against our battle fleets," he said quietly. "Your colonies have no defenses worth mentioning. Your home world has a population of billions who will die because of your pride." Jiwon met his eyes without flinching. "That is our choice to make. So be it." Taemin rose back into the air. "The hegemony fleet will move to secure human space. Within the week, any resistance will be met with appropriate force." The other aliens were nodding and making sounds of approval. This was how it always went. The stubborn species would realize their mistake when the ships arrived. They always surrendered before too many of them had to die. But Jiwon was smiling now, just a little bit. It was not a happy smile. "Admiral," she said, "may I ask you something?" Taemin looked annoyed. "What? In all your thousands of years of conquest, how many species have you faced that actually wanted to fight?" The question seemed to confuse him. "What do you mean?" "I mean, how many species have you met that looked at your offer and said, 'No, thank you, we would rather build weapons and learn how to kill you'?" The chamber was quiet again. Taemin's scales were shifting colors faster now, cycling through, purple and blue and something that might have been silver. "Civilized species do not choose war over peace," he said finally. Jiwon's smile got a little wider. "Exactly." She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the huge chamber, and no one tried to stop her. As she reached the door, she turned back one last time. "Admiral Taemin, honored council members, thank you for your time. I think you will find that humans are not as civilized as you might prefer." The door closed behind her with a soft hiss, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Far away, in the asteroid belt of the Sol system, something that had been sleeping for 3 years began to wake up. Deep in the rock and ice, massive engines that had been cold and dark started to warm. Computer systems came online one by one, running through diagnostics that had been written by engineers who understood that sometimes the best defense was a very large, very angry offense. The hurricane was coming, and the stars would indeed shake. The asteroid looked like any other piece of floating rock in the belt. Dark, cold, and completely uninteresting. Ships had passed by it thousands of times over the years, their scanners showing nothing but iron and ice. But deep inside the rock, something massive was stirring to life. Chief Engineer Kyung-ho floated through the corridor, checking displays on his tablet as he moved. The artificial gravity was still offline, so everyone was moving carefully to avoid bumping into the walls. Around him, the ship hummed with the sound of systems coming online after years of sleep. "Reactor 4 is at 60%, called out Engineer Subin from across the engine room. She was young, maybe 25, with grease already staining her work clothes. "Reactor 5 is climbing." Kyung-ho nodded and made notes on his tablet. The Hurricane-class battleship had 12 fusion reactors, each one bigger than anything humanity had built before. When all 12 were running at full power, they would produce enough energy to light up a small city. Today, they would need every bit of that power. "How long until we can move?" asked a voice behind him. Kyung-ho turned to see Commander Sora floating in the doorway. She was tall and serious, with short black hair and dark eyes that seemed to see everything. Her uniform, was perfectly clean, unlike everyone else on the ship. 6 hours for basic power, Kyung-ho said. 12 hours for full combat readiness. So-ra nodded. The Council gave us 1 week before their fleet moves. We need to be ready in 10 hours. We will be, Kyung-ho said. He had been working on this ship for 15 years, ever since the first plans were drawn up. He knew every wire, every pipe, every bolt. If he said they would be ready, they would be ready. So Ra pushed off from the doorway and floated deeper into the engine room. All around them, engineers were working at control panels and checking connections. The ship was huge, so big that it took 20 minutes to walk from one end to the other. Most of that space was filled with engines, weapons, and armor. "Tell me again why we built it so big," So-ra said. Kyung-ho laughed. "Because we could, and because sometimes bigger is better." The Hurricane class was not like alien ships. Aliens built their vessels to be efficient and elegant. They used advanced materials and clever designs to make ships that were fast and used very little fuel. Human engineers had looked at those designs and decided to do the exact opposite. The Hurricane was built like a fortress that could fly. Its hull was made of layers and layers of steel and titanium, thick enough to stop almost anything. Its weapons were not precise laser systems, but massive guns that could throw chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Its engines were not efficient. Fusion drives, but enormous rockets that could push the ship faster than anything its size had a right to go. "Reactor 7 is online," called out another engineer. 8 and 9 are warming up. Kyung-ho checked his tablet again. Everything was going according to plan. The ship had been designed to wake up quickly when needed. Every system had been tested and retested during the years of construction. They had run simulation after simulation, making sure that when the time came, the Hurricane would be ready, and the time had definitely come. "Commander," said a voice over the intercom, "please report to the bridge." So-ra looked at Kyung-ho. "Keep me updated on the reactors. I want full power in 8 hours." "You will have it," Kyung-ho said. So-ra pushed off the wall and floated toward the exit. The bridge was at the front of the ship, protected by meters of armor and backup systems. As she moved through the corridors, she could see other crew members floating to their stations. Everyone looked calm and professional, but she could see the excitement in their eyes. They had all volunteered for this mission. They all knew what it meant. For 3 years, humanity had been playing for time, pretending to be weak while they built their secret weapon. Today, the pretending would end. The bridge was a large room filled with screens and control panels. Officers were strapped into their chairs, checking systems and running diagnostics. At the center of it all sat the captain's chair, and in that chair sat the man who would command humanity's first real warship. Admiral Dong-jun was older than most of the crew, with gray hair and lines around his eyes that came from years of staring at stars. He had commanded cargo ships and mining vessels before this, but never anything like the Hurricane. No human had ever commanded anything like the Hurricane. "Status report," So-ra said, as she strapped herself into the first officer's chair. "All systems coming online," said Lieutenant Young-A from the navigation station. "We should have engine power within the hour." "Weapon systems are charging," reported Major Bin from the tactical station. "All missile tubes are loaded and ready." So-ra looked at the main screen, which showed the view outside the asteroid. For now it was just empty space and distant stars. But soon, very soon, that would change. "Admiral," she said, "we will be ready to move in 8 hours." Dong-jun nodded without taking his eyes off the screen. "And the other ships?" "The Cyclone reports ready in 10 hours. The Typhoon will need 12. "Good." Dongjun finally turned to look at her. "Commander, in your opinion, are we making a mistake?" Sora thought about it for a moment. They were about to take on the largest military force in the galaxy with 3 ships. By any reasonable measure, it was completely insane. "Yes, sir," she said. "Probably." Dongjun smiled. "Good. If it was reasonable, someone else would have thought of it first." Around them, the ship continued to wake up. Deep in the hull, massive, engines that had been cold for years began to warm. Weapon systems ran through their startup sequences, checking and double-checking every component. The artificial gravity came online with a soft hum, and suddenly everyone's feet touched the deck. "Gravity is good," reported the engineering station. "All reactors are now online and stable." Kyung-ho's voice came over the intercom. "Bridge, this is engineering. We have full power available. All systems are green." Sora checked the time, 7 hours and 38 minutes. Kyung-ho had beaten his own estimate. "Excellent work, Chief," Dongjun said. "Commander Sora, plot. A course for the Kepler system, maximum speed." "Sir," Young-A said from navigation, "at maximum speed, we will arrive in 18 hours. The alien fleet will see us coming from 12 light hours away." "Perfect," Dongjun said. "I want them to see us coming. I want them to have time to think about what they are seeing." Sora began entering commands into her console. Outside, the asteroid that had hidden them for so long began to crack and split apart. Massive doors that had been invisible from the outside slowly opened, revealing the Hurricane-class battleship hidden within. The ship was enormous, bigger than most space stations. Its hull was dark gray and covered with weapon emplacements and sensor arrays. It did not look elegant or beautiful. It looked dangerous. "All stations report ready," Sora announced. Dongjun leaned back in his chair. "Take us out, Commander. It is time to introduce the galaxy to human engineering." The Hurricane's engines lit up like small suns, pushing the massive ship out of its hiding place and into open space. Behind it, the asteroid crumbled into dust and debris. Ahead lay the stars, and somewhere among those stars was an alien fleet that was about to learn what humans did when someone threatened their freedom. The Hurricane was awake, and it was very, very angry. Commander Raywan stared at the sensor display, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. The numbers did not make any sense. According to the readings, something the size of a small moon was moving through space at a significant fraction of light speed. But that was impossible. "Run the scan again," she ordered. The sensor operator, a hegemony officer with blue skin and 4 arms, worked quickly at his console. "Same readings, Commander. Energy signature is off the scale. Whatever it is producing power levels equivalent to a small star." Raywan felt a chill run down her spine. She was human, or had been human once. 5 years ago, she had defected to the hegemony, convinced that humanity's best chance for survival was to join the winning side. The aliens had welcomed her knowledge of human tactics and technology. They had given her a command and treated her well, but right now she was wondering if she had made a terrible mistake. "Distance?" she asked. 12 light hours and closing. At current speed, it will reach the Kepler system in 18 hours. Raywan looked around the bridge of her ship, the hegemony cruiser Bright Star. Her crew was made up of different alien species, all of them experienced and professional. They had fought in dozens of battles across the galaxy, but she could see worry in their eyes now. "Send a message to the fleet," she said. "All ships are to maintain position and prepare for..." Possible contact with unknown vessel. The communications officer, a tall alien with skin like tree bark, worked at his station. Message sent, Commander. Admiral Kethvar acknowledges and requests more information. Raywan wished she had more information to give. The human colonies in this system had been quiet for months. Their ships were old cargo vessels and mining. Equipment. Nothing that could threaten a hegemony battle fleet. Intelligence reports said that humanity's total military consisted of maybe 50 ships, all of them converted civilian vessels. So what was this thing? Commander, the sensor operator said, the object is beginning to decelerate. It will drop out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. All ships, battle stations, Raywan ordered. Weapons powered but not targeted. We do not know what we are dealing with yet. The fleet consisted of 30 ships, ranging from fast patrol vessels to heavy cruisers. It was more than enough firepower to deal with any human resistance. At least, that was what everyone had thought until an hour ago. Object dropping out of hyperspace now, the sensor operator reported. The main screen flickered and then showed the edge of the Kepler system. Empty space, scattered with the usual debris and cosmic dust. Then something appeared that made everyone on the bridge go very quiet. It was a ship, but unlike any ship they had ever seen. It was enormous, easily 3 times the size of their largest cruiser. Its hull was dark gray and looked like it was made of solid metal, layer upon layer of it. Weapon ports covered its surface like the pores of some giant metal creature. By the ancient stars, whispered the communications officer. What is that thing? Raywan knew exactly what it was, even though she had never seen one before. During her time with human military intelligence, she had heard rumors, whispers about secret projects and hidden shipyards. Most people had dismissed them as fantasy. Looking at the monster on the screen, she realized the whispers had been true. It is a Hurricane-class battleship, she said quietly. The aliens on the bridge looked at her with confusion. The name meant nothing to them. But Raywan remembered the stories. Human engineers working in secret, building something that would make the galaxy take notice. Something that would prove humanity was not just another weak species to be conquered. Incoming. Transmission, the communications officer reported. They are hailing us. On screen, Raywan said. The image of the battleship was replaced by the face of a human man. He was older, with gray hair and stern eyes. His uniform was simple and practical, not fancy like hegemony dress uniforms. When he spoke, his voice was calm and confident. This is Admiral Dong Jun of the Hurricane-class battleship Tempest. You are in violation of human space. You have 30 seconds to withdraw. The bridge was silent for a moment. Then the tactical officer, a creature that looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird, made a sound that might have been laughter. Commander, that ship is outnumbered 30-1. Should we accept their surrender when they realize their mistake? Raywan looked at the alien officer, then back at the screen. Admiral Dong Jun was still waiting, his expression unchanged. There was no fear in his eyes, no uncertainty. He looked like a man who held all the cards and knew exactly how to play them. Admiral, Raywan said, this is Commander Raywan of the hegemony vessel Bright Star. We are here on the authority of the Galactic Council. Withdraw your ship immediately and prepare to be boarded. Admiral Dong Jun smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. Commander Raywan, I remember reading about you in the intelligence files, the human who chose the wrong side. Raywan felt her cheeks burn with anger and embarrassment. I chose survival, Admiral. Something you might want to consider. 30 seconds are up, Dongjun said. Since you have chosen not to withdraw, we will provide a demonstration of why you should reconsider. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Commander, the tactical officer said, should we target their weapons? Ray Wan was about to give the order when the sensor operator made a sound of alarm. Commander, the battleship is targeting the third moon of Kepler 442b. The uninhabited moon? Ray Wan asked. Why would they? Her question was answered a moment later. The Tempest fired, but not with energy beams like civilized ships used. Instead, it launched a barrage of solid projectiles, each one moving at incredible speed. The moon was 12 million kilometers away. The projectiles took 17 minutes to reach their target. When they hit, the result was visible to every ship in the system. The moon did not just explode, it vaporized. In the space of 3 seconds, a celestial body that had existed for billions of years was reduced to expanding gas and debris. The shockwave was so powerful that it registered on sensors across multiple star systems. The bridge of the bright star was completely silent. Every alien officer stared at the screen, watching the glowing cloud where a moon used to be. The tactical officer's feathers were standing on end, and the communications officer's bark-like skin had turned a sickly yellow color. Commander, the sensor operator said in a shaking voice, energy readings indicate they used kinetic projectiles. No exotic matter, no antimatter, just metal moving very, very fast. Ray Wan understood the implications immediately. Energy weapons could be defended against with shields and armor. But kinetic weapons at those speeds were different. They did not care about shields. They did not care about armor. They turned. Anything they hit into plasma. Incoming transmission, the communications officer reported. Admiral Dongjun appeared on the screen again, still calm and confident. Commander Ray Wan, that was our lowest power setting. We have 17 different levels of escalation available. Would you like to see level 2? Ray Wan looked around her bridge. Every alien officer was staring at her, waiting for orders. She thought about the moon that was no longer there. She thought about the rumors she had heard during her human intelligence days. She thought about what level 17 might look like. All ships, she said quietly. Withdraw to minimum safe distance. Send a priority message to Admiral Kethvar. Tell him we need reinforcements. Lots of reinforcements. On the screen, Admiral Dongjun nodded approvingly. A wise choice, Commander. I suggest you also tell your superiors that humanity is no longer interested in playing games. The transmission ended. Around the bridge, alien officers began working frantically at their consoles, preparing to retreat from something they did not understand and could not fight. Ray Wan remained in her chair, staring at the expanding debris, cloud where the moon used to be. She had betrayed her own species to join what she thought was the winning side. Now she was beginning to wonder if there was about to be a new winning side, and she was on the wrong side of it. Admiral Dongjun stood on the bridge of the Tempest, watching the alien fleet pull back to what they considered a safe distance. It was almost amusing. They thought 12 million kilometers was safe. They had no idea what the Hurricane class was really capable of. Admiral, Major Bin reported from the tactical station, all alien vessels have withdrawn to minimum engagement range. They are maintaining formation but keeping their weapons powered down. Good, Dongjun said. They are learning to be polite. Commander Sora, what is the status of our kinetic systems? Sora checked her displays. All railguns are loaded and ready. We have tungsten rods in tubes 1 through 48. depleted uranium in tubes 49 through 72. Hypervelocity missiles are armed and targeted. Dongjun nodded. The demonstration with the moon had been impressive, but it was just the beginning. The aliens needed to understand that humanity had not just built one big gun, they had built a floating weapons platform that could destroy entire fleets. "Sir," Lieutenant Young-A called from the communications station, "we are receiving multiple transmissions from the alien fleet. They are demanding to know our intentions." "Tell them our intentions are simple," Dongjun said. "We want them to leave human space and never come back. If they need more convincing, we are happy to provide it." The main screen showed the tactical display of the system. The alien fleet was spread out in a defensive formation, trying to present multiple targets, instead of clustering together. It was a smart move, but it would not help them if the Tempest decided to get serious. "Admiral," Sora said quietly, "intelligence reports suggest more alien ships are on the way. This might be our only chance to make an impression before they bring overwhelming numbers." Dongjun considered this. The Tempest was powerful, but it was still just one ship. If the aliens brought their entire fleet, even the Hurricane class might not be enough. Better to make sure they understood the situation clearly. "Major Bin," he said, "select the largest alien ship in the formation, the one that looks like it, thinks it is important." Bin worked at his console for a moment. "The heavy cruiser in the center, sir. Energy readings suggest it is their flagship." "Perfect. Target their engines with kinetic rounds. Lowest velocity setting. We want to disable them, not vaporize them." "Sir," Bin said, "even our lowest velocity setting will probably destroy the ship completely." Dongjun paused. The problem with kinetic weapons was that there was no such thing as a gentle tap. When you threw a piece of metal at a significant fraction of light speed, it tended to destroy whatever it hit. "What about a warning shot?" Sora suggested. "Put a round close enough that they feel the shockwave." "Better idea," Dongjun said. "Major, target the empty space exactly 100 kilometers in front of their flagship. Single tungsten rod. Minimum velocity." Bin entered the targeting data. "Targeted, sir. Ready to fire on your command." Fire. The railgun fired with a sound like thunder. Deep in the ship's hull, electromagnetic coils accelerated a tungsten rod. From 0 to 30,000 kilometers per second in the space of 200 meters. The rod emerged from the ship moving so fast that it was invisible to the naked eye. On the bridge of the alien flagship, alarms began screaming. Sensors detected the incoming projectile and tried to calculate its trajectory. For a terrifying moment, it looked like the humans were about to destroy the command ship. Then the rod passed harmlessly in front of the ship and continued into empty space. But its passage created a shock wave that rattled every ship in the alien formation. Windows cracked, crew members were thrown to the deck, and several smaller vessels lost power temporarily. "Transmission coming in," Young-A reported. "The alien commander wants to talk." "Put her through," Dongjun said. Commander Ray Wan appeared on the screen. Her hair was disheveled, and there was a cut on her forehead from where she had hit something during the shockwave. Behind her, alien crew members were working frantically to restore damaged systems. "Admiral Dongjun," she said, "what are you trying to prove? That you can destroy us? We already know that." "Do you?" Dongjun asked. "Because your ships are still here." Ray Wan wiped blood from her forehead. "We are here under the authority of the Galactic Council. If you attack us, you will be declaring war on the entire galaxy." "The entire galaxy declared war on us first," Dongjun replied. "We are simply responding in kind." On the tactical display, new contacts were appearing. At the edge of the system, more alien ships arriving to reinforce the fleet. Dong Jun counted them quickly. 20 vessels, then 30, then 50. Sir, Major Bin said quietly, we now have 80 alien ships in the system, more arriving every hour. Dong Jun smiled. This was actually perfect. The more aliens who witnessed the demonstration, the better. Word would spread faster through their command structure. Commander Ray Wan, he said, I see you have called for help. Good. I want as many witnesses as possible for what happens next. Ray Wan looked confused. What are you talking about? Instead of answering, Dong Jun turned to his weapons officer. Major Bin, select targets across the system. Asteroids, comets, anything that is not a ship or a planet. I want to show our guests the full range of our capabilities. Bin's fingers flew over his console. Target selected, sir. Shall I fire a full spread? No, Dong Jun said. Fire everything. The tempest erupted in light and thunder. Every rail. Gun fired simultaneously, sending hundreds of tungsten and uranium rods screaming across the system at different velocities. Missile tubes opened and disgorged swarms of hypervelocity projectiles. Energy weapons that had been kept in reserve blazed to life, adding beams of coherent light to the barrage. The targets were scattered across millions of kilometers, but the Hurricane class had been built to engage multiple enemies simultaneously. Its targeting computers tracked dozens of objects at once, calculating firing solutions that accounted for orbital mechanics and relativistic effects. The first impacts came 17 minutes later. A large asteroid simply vanished, torn apart by tungsten rods moving at 80% of light speed. A comet was hit by a hypervelocity missile and exploded in a brilliant flash that was visible from every planet in the system. But the real show was just beginning. The Tempest had fired projectiles at different velocities, creating a carefully timed sequence of destruction. For the next 2 hours, the alien fleet watched as every piece of space debris larger than a house was systematically destroyed. The finale came when the last salvo reached its target, a small moon orbiting the system's gas giant. Unlike the earlier demonstration, this time, the Tempest used its most powerful weapons. The moon did not just vaporize, it was torn apart at the atomic level, creating an expanding cloud of superheated plasma that glowed like a small star. When it was over, the system was eerily clean. Billions of years of accumulated debris had been swept away in 2 hours of precise destruction. The alien fleet floated in space that was now completely empty, except for planets, stars, and their own ships. Transmission from the alien fleet, Young-E reported. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Put it through, Dong Jun said. Commander Ray Wan appeared on the screen again. This time, she looked like she had seen something that had broken her understanding of reality. Her eyes were wide and unfocused, and her hands were shaking. Admiral, she said, what do you want? Dong Jun leaned back in his chair. I want you to go back to your superiors and give them a message. Tell them that humanity has 3 Hurricane-class battleships. Tell them that what you have seen today was a demonstration, not an attack. Tell them that we are prepared to use these weapons to defend every human world, every human colony, and every human ship. He paused, letting the words sink in. And tell them that if they want to avoid seeing what these ships can do when we are actually trying to hurt someone, they will withdraw from human space immediately and never return. Ray Wan nodded slowly. Around her, alien crew members were staring at displays that showed the complete absence of anything larger than a pebble in the space around them. We will relay your message, she said. Excellent, Dongjun replied. You have 24 hours to clear human space. After that, we will consider any alien military vessel in our territory to be a legitimate target. The transmission ended. On the main screen, the alien fleet began to move, slowly at first, then with increasing urgency. Within an hour, every alien ship had jumped to hyperspace, carrying word of what they had witnessed to the farthest corners of the galaxy. Dongjun remained on the bridge, watching the empty space where the alien fleet had been. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, checking systems and preparing for whatever came next. Admiral, Sora said, do you think they will actually withdraw? Dongjun considered the question. Some of them will, the smart ones. The others will come back with bigger fleets and better weapons. And when they do? Dongjun smiled. When they do, Commander, we will show them what the Tempest can accomplish when it is not just demonstrating. The alien fleet jumped to hyperspace in complete panic. Ship after ship vanished from normal space, their crews desperate to escape the system where they had witnessed impossible destruction. But the Tempest did not let them go quietly, Admiral. Dongjun watched the tactical display as the last alien vessel disappeared. Commander Sora, plot pursuit courses for the 3 largest groups. I want to know where they are going. Sora worked at her console, tracking the hyperspace signatures left by the fleeing ships. The main fleet is heading toward the Hegemony Core worlds, sir. Estimated arrival time is 6 days. 2 smaller groups are splitting off toward different sectors. Excellent, Dongjun said. Signal the Cyclone and Typhoon. Tell Admiral Mi Young and Captain Wu Jin to intercept the smaller groups. We will follow the main fleet. Sir, Lieutenant Young-yi said from communications, pursuing them into core territory could be seen as an act of aggression. Dongjun smiled grimly. Lieutenant, destroying a moon in front of their fleet was an act of aggression. Following them home is just good tactics. The Tempest's engines came to life with a roar that could be felt throughout the ship. The Hurricane class had been designed for endurance as much as firepower. While alien ships were built for efficiency and speed, human engineers had focused on the ability to keep fighting for weeks or months without stopping. Jump to hyperspace, Dongjun ordered. Space twisted around the massive battleship as it entered the faster-than-light realm. The Tempest's hyperspace engines were crude compared to alien technology, but they were also incredibly powerful. What the ship lacked in elegance, it made up for in raw force. Major Bin monitored the pursuit from his tactical station. Admiral, we are maintaining pace with the alien fleet. Our engines are operating at 60% capacity. And their engines? Dongjun asked. Full emergency power, sir. They are running their reactors at maximum output just to stay ahead of us. Sora looked up from her console. Sir, at their current power levels, they will need to stop for refueling within 48 hours. We can maintain our current speed for 3 weeks. This was the fundamental difference between human and alien engineering philosophy. Alien ships were built like race cars, fast and efficient but delicate. The Hurricane class was built like a freight train, massive and unstoppable. Deep in the ship's hull, Chief Engineer Kyung-ho monitored the fusion reactors. All 12 were running smoothly, producing enormous amounts of power with room to spare. The engines that pushed the Tempest through hyperspace were based on human industrial technology, scaled up to ridiculous proportions. Engineering to bridge. Kyung-ho's voice came over the intercom. All systems are stable. We can increase speed if needed. Negative, Dongjun replied. Maintain current pace. I want them to know we are following, but I do not want to catch them yet. The chase continued for 2 days. The alien fleet pushed their ships harder and harder, trying to lose the pursuing battleship. But the Tempest stayed with them, always visible on their sensors, always just close enough to remind them that it was there. On the bridge, the crew worked in shifts, monitoring the pursuit and preparing for whatever came next. Major Bin spent his time reviewing weapon systems and checking ammunition supplies. The demonstration at Kepler had used less than 5% of the ship's ordnance. They were ready for a much larger fight. "Sir," Young A reported, "we are receiving multiple transmissions from the alien fleet. They are calling for reinforcements from every sector." "Let them call," Dongjun said. "The more ships they gather, the better our demonstration will be." So Ra plotted their course on the navigation display. They were heading deep into hegemony territory, toward systems that had been the center of galactic civilization for thousands of years. It was exactly where Dongjun wanted to go. "Admiral," she said quietly, "once we reach the core worlds, we will be facing their entire military. Are you sure this is wise?" Dongjun considered the question. The Tempest was powerful, but it was still just one ship. Even with its massive weapons and heavy armor, it could not fight the entire hegemony fleet. But that was not the point. "Commander," he said, "what do you think scares them more? Our weapons or the fact that we are willing to use them?" Sora thought about it. "Our willingness, sir." "Exactly. The aliens have spent thousands of years building a civilization based on the idea that reasonable species do not choose wars. They negotiate, they compromise, they surrender when faced with superior force. The idea that someone might actually fight back is completely outside their experience." The pursuit continued. Reports came in from the other Hurricane-class ships as they intercepted the smaller alien groups. Admiral Mi Young reported that the cyclone had cornered 12 ships near a mining station, forcing them to surrender without firing a shot. Captain Wu Jin's typhoon had done the same with another group simply by appearing and demanding their withdrawal. "The aliens are learning to be afraid of us," Major Bin observed. "That is good. Fear is a tool," Dongjun agreed, "but it only works if you use it correctly. Too little fear and they ignore you. Too much fear and they become desperate." On the 3rd day of the chase, the alien fleet finally stopped. Their fuel reserves were exhausted and their engines were overheating. They had no choice but to drop. Out of hyperspace near a hegemony supply station, the Tempest emerged from hyperspace 30 million kilometers away, close enough to be clearly visible, but far enough to avoid immediate engagement. The alien crews could see the massive battleship on their screens, waiting like a predator that had cornered its prey. "Incoming transmission," Young-E reported. "It is Commander Ray-Wan again." "Put her through," Dongjun said. Ray-Wan appeared on the screen, looking exhausted and defeated. Behind her, alien crew members worked frantically to repair damaged systems and refuel their ships. "Admiral Dongjun," she said, "what do you want? We have withdrawn from human space as demanded." "You have withdrawn from one human system," Dongjun corrected. "But your government still claims authority over human colonies. Your leaders still believe they can dictate terms to my species." Ray-Wan looked confused. "What would it take to satisfy you?" Dongjun leaned forward in his chair. "Complete withdrawal from all human space, recognition of human sovereignty, and a formal apology from the Galactic Council for threatening my people." "That is impossible," Ray-Wan said. "The Council will never agree to those terms." "Then we will continue this conversation until they change their minds." Dongjun replied. The Tempest has fuel and supplies for months. How long can your ship stay operational? The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in thoughtful silence. Around them, the ship continued its steady patrol, engines humming with barely contained power. Admiral, Sora said, sensors are detecting multiple hyperspace signatures. More ships are coming. Dongjun nodded. How many? At least 50, sir. Possibly more. Excellent. Signal the Cyclone and Typhoon. Tell them to join us here. It is time for the galaxy to see all 3 Hurricane-class ships together. Major Bin checked his weapons displays. Sir, 50 ships is a lot, even for us. Major, Dongjun said, remember what we learned from human history. Sometimes the purpose of a battle is not to win, but to send a message. Today we are going to send a very clear message to the Galactic Council. What message is that, sir? Dongjun smiled as he watched the alien reinforcements begin to arrive. Ship after ship dropped out of hyperspace, forming the largest fleet ever assembled in this part of the galaxy. Sleek cruisers, powerful battleships, and massive carriers, all of them focused on the single human vessel that had dared to challenge their authority. The message, Major, is that humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist. We are informing the galaxy of our intentions, and we are prepared to back up those intentions with force. The alien fleet continued to grow, surrounding the Tempest, with overwhelming numbers. But Dongjun was not worried. In a few hours, the Cyclone and Typhoon would arrive, and the galaxy would see what 3 Hurricane-class battleships could accomplish when they worked together. The chase was over. Now came the real test. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in 10,000 years of civilization. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the great chamber, their voices creating a chaos of sound that echoed off the metal walls. At the center of it all stood Defense Coordinator Jin Ho, another human who had chosen to side with the aliens years before. Jin Ho was tall and thin, with nervous eyes that darted around the chamber as he tried to maintain order. His alien colleagues had always treated him well, valuing his knowledge of human psychology and tactics. But today, that knowledge felt like a curse. "Order!" he called out, his voice amplified by the chamber's speakers. "We must have order!" Slowly, the noise died down. Hundreds of alien eyes focused on Jin Ho, waiting for answers he did not have. Behind him, a massive screen showed tactical displays from across the galaxy, tracking the movements of 3 human ships that had somehow changed everything. Admiral Taemin floated in his gravity field above the chamber, his purple skin darker than usual. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "Coordinator Jin Ho," he said, "explain to us how 3 primitive human vessels have managed to terrorize half the galaxy." Jin Ho felt sweat forming on his forehead. He had seen the reports from Kepler system. He had watched the recordings of the moon being vaporized. The humans had built something that defied everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. "Honored Admiral," he said, "the Hurricane class appears to represent a completely different approach to military engineering. Where we have focused on efficiency and precision, the humans have chosen overwhelming firepower and brute force. An alien that looked like a giant flower made a sound like rustling leaves. Brute force is the refuge of primitive minds. How can crude weapons threaten our advanced fleets?" Jin Ho wished he could agree, but the evidence was impossible to ignore. "Because they work," he said simply. "The kinetic weapons these ships carry do not care about our shields or our armor. They destroy everything they hit through sheer physical force. The chamber erupted in angry voices again. Some aliens demanded immediate retaliation. Others called for negotiation. A few suggested that humanity should be destroyed completely before they could build more of these ships. Admiral Tae-min raised his hand for silence. What is the current tactical situation? Jin-Ho gestured to the main screen, which showed a map of local space. 3 red dots marked the positions of the Hurricane-class ships, surrounded by much larger numbers of green dots representing hegemony vessels. The ship called Tempest is currently surrounded by 63 of our vessels near the Antares supply station, Jin-Ho reported. The other 2 ships, Cyclone and Typhoon, are moving to join it. Estimated arrival time is 4 hours. 63 ships against 3, said a tall alien with skin like metal. Even with their advanced weapons, they cannot hope to win. Jin-Ho shook his head. Sir, with respect, I think you are missing the point. They are not trying to win a battle. They are trying to send a message. What message? Admiral Tae-min demanded. Before Jin-Ho could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the chamber. The tactical display flashed red as new information appeared. A communications officer, one of the insect-like species, scuttled forward with urgent news. Admiral, the officer clicked, we are receiving reports from the Antares station. The human ship has just destroyed 17 asteroid mining platforms with a single weapons volley. The chamber fell silent. Those mining platforms had been operating for centuries, protected by defensive shields and automated weapons. They had been considered completely safe from any kind of attack. Show me, Admiral Tae-min ordered. The main screen switched to a live feed from the Antares system. The space around the supply station had once been filled with massive industrial complexes, each one the size of a small city. Now there was nothing but expanding clouds of debris and glowing plasma. How long did it take? Jin-Ho asked quietly. 17 seconds, the communications officer replied. The human ship fired once, and all 17 platforms were destroyed simultaneously. Jin-Ho felt a chill run down his spine. The humans had not just destroyed the platforms. They had done it with surgical precision, hitting targets scattered across millions of kilometers with perfect accuracy. It was a demonstration of capabilities that went far beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. Coordinator, Admiral Tae-min said, his voice deadly quiet. In your expert opinion, what would happen if those 3 ships reached the core worlds? Jin-Ho looked at the tactical display, calculating distances and travel times. The core worlds were the heart of galactic civilization, home to trillions of beings across dozens of systems. They were protected by the largest fleets and most advanced defenses in the galaxy, but they were also targets that could not move. Admiral, he said, slowly, if those ships reached the core worlds and used their kinetic weapons against planetary targets, he did not need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the chamber understood the implications. A ship that could vaporize a moon could do terrible things to a planet. Unacceptable, Admiral Tae-min declared. Jin-Ho, you will coordinate the mobilization of every available ship. I want the largest fleet in galactic history assembled at the Nexus system within 72 hours. Sir, Jin-Ho said, that would require pulling ships from every sector. It would leave entire regions undefended. Do it, Tae-min commanded. Whatever the cost, these human ships must be stopped before they can threaten the core worlds. Around the chamber, representatives began activating their communication systems, sending orders to their home fleets. Within minutes, ships across the galaxy were receiving emergency mobilization orders. The hegemony was calling in every favor, every alliance, every mutual defense pact. Jin-Ho worked frantically at his control station, coordinating the massive logistics operation. Supply ships were redirected to fuel depots. Troop transports were loaded with additional Marines. Weapons platforms were moved into defensive positions around key systems. "Coordinator," the communications officer reported, "we are receiving updated intelligence from the field. The second and third human ships have arrived at Antares. All 3 vessels are now in formation." The main screen switched back to the tactical display. 3 massive red dots now sat at the center of a cloud of green ones. The human ships were outnumbered more than 20-1, but somehow they did not look vulnerable. They looked dangerous. "What are they doing?" Admiral Tae-min asked. Jin-Ho studied the sensor readings. "They appear to be waiting, sir. Just sitting there in formation." Waiting for what? Before Jin-Ho could answer, new alarms began sounding. The tactical display updated again, showing movement from the human formation. All 3 ships were accelerating, heading directly toward the core worlds. "They are making their move," Jin-Ho announced. "All 3 ships are en route to Nexus Prime. Estimated arrival time is 18 hours. The chamber erupted in panic. Representatives shouted orders and demands, their voices creating a cacophony of fear and anger. Admiral Tae-min floated higher in his gravity field, trying to restore order. "Silence," he commanded. "Jin-Ho, what is the status of our fleet mobilization?" Jin-Ho checked his displays. Ships were converging on the Nexus system from across the galaxy, but it would take time for them all to arrive. "We will have approximately 800 ships ready when the humans arrive, sir. More reinforcements are en route, but—" 800 ships, Admiral Tae-min said, "against 3. Those odds should be sufficient." Jin-Ho was not so sure. He had studied human military history during his time working for the aliens. Humans had a disturbing tendency to win battles they should have lost, usually through tactics that other species considered insane. "Sir," he said carefully, "I recommend we also prepare evacuation plans for the core worlds, just in case." The chamber fell silent again. The idea of evacuating the heart of galactic civilization was unthinkable. It would mean admitting that 3 human ships could threaten the greatest empire in history. But as Jin-Ho watched the tactical display, seeing the 3 red dots moving steadily toward Nexus Prime, he could not shake the feeling that the unthinkable was about to become reality. "Do it," Admiral Tae-min said finally. "Prepare the evacuation plans. And pray to whatever gods you believe in that we will not need them." Across the galaxy, the greatest military mobilization in recorded history was underway. Thousands of ships, millions of crew members, and the entire industrial capacity of 100 worlds were being focused on stopping 3 human vessels. But in the back of his mind, Jin-Ho wondered if it would be enough. The humans had already proven that they did not think like other species. They had built ships that violated every principle of efficient design, and somehow those ships were winning. In 18 hours, the galaxy would find out if bigger really was better, or if human engineering could overcome even overwhelming odds. The countdown to the Battle of Nexus Prime had begun. Nexus Prime had been the center of galactic civilization for 8,000 years. The massive space station was the size of a small moon, its gleaming towers and docking bays housing the government of 1 trillion worlds. Today, it was about to become a battlefield. Admiral Dong-jun stood on the bridge of the Tempest, watching the tactical display as his small fleet approached the heart of the hegemony. "Around Nexus Prime," 800 alien ships waited in perfect formation. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Impressive, Admiral Mi Young said over the communication link from the Cyclone. Her ship flanked. The Tempest on the left, its massive hull bristling with weapons. They certainly know how to put on a show. Pretty formations, Captain Wu Jin added from the Typhoon. Very elegant, very civilized. Dong Jun smiled. His fellow commanders understood the situation perfectly. The alien fleet was arranged according to traditional galactic military doctrine, with large ships in the center and smaller vessels forming protective screens. It looked magnificent and orderly. It was also exactly what human planners had expected. Commander. "Sora," Dong Jun said. "Signal the alien fleet. Tell them we are here to negotiate." Sora looked surprised. "Sir?" "Trust me, Commander. Open a channel to their flagship." The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of a massive alien dreadnought. Admiral Tae Min appeared, his purple skin glowing with barely controlled anger. Behind him, alien officers worked frantically at their stations. "Admiral Dong Jun," Tae Min said, "you are outnumbered 800 to 3. Surrender immediately and we will consider treating your crews with mercy." "Admiral Tae Min," Dong Jun replied calmly, "we are here to discuss terms for your withdrawal from human space. Are you ready to negotiate?" The alien admiral's skin flashed through several different colors. "You are insane. You cannot possibly hope to defeat this fleet." "You are probably right," Dong Jun agreed. "But that is not really the point, is it?" On the tactical display, the 3 Hurricane-class ships continued their approach. They moved in a tight triangle formation, their engines pushing them forward at a steady pace. To the aliens, it must have looked like suicide. "Admiral," Major Bin reported quietly, "all weapons are charged and ready. Kinetic systems are loaded with full-spectrum ordnance." Dong Jun nodded. The Hurricane-class ships carried multiple types of kinetic weapons, each one designed for different targets. Tungsten rods for armor penetration, depleted uranium for maximum, destructive effect, and exotic matter projectiles for when nothing else would work. "Signal the Cyclone and Typhoon," he ordered. "Execute Plan Thunderstorm." What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries. The 3 human ships did not engage the alien fleet in traditional combat. Instead, they demonstrated why human engineers had designed the Hurricane class to be the ultimate weapons platform. The Tempest opened fire first, launching a massive barrage of kinetic projectiles at different velocities. Some rounds were aimed at the alien fleet's heavy ships, while others targeted the space around Nexus Prime itself. The Cyclone and Typhoon followed seconds later, their own weapons adding to the storm of metal screaming through space. But the humans were not trying to destroy the alien fleet. They were trying to prove a point. The first impacts came 4 minutes later. A tungsten rod moving at 60% of light speed struck an alien dreadnought amidships. The ship's shields flared and died instantly, and the massive vessel was torn in half by the sheer kinetic energy. Debris scattered in all directions, glowing white-hot from the impact. More impacts followed. Alien ships vanished in brilliant flashes as projectiles tore through their hulls. The elegant formation began to break apart as captains tried to maneuver, away from the incoming fire. But there was nowhere to go. The humans had calculated their targeting solutions perfectly. "Sir," Lieutenant Young-A reported, "the alien fleet is attempting to return fire." "Let them," Dong Jun said. "Major Bin, initiate defensive pattern 7. The 3 Hurricane-class ships began moving in a complex weaving pattern, their massive hulls surprisingly agile despite their size. Alien energy beams lanced out toward them, but the humans had studied galactic military doctrine for years. They knew exactly how to avoid the most dangerous fire while maintaining their own attack. Direct hit on the Cyclone's port side, So Ra reported. Admiral Mi Young reports minimal damage. Dong Jun was not surprised. The Hurricane class had been built to absorb punishment that would destroy other ships. Their armor was meters thick and every vital system had multiple backups. A few energy beam hits were barely worth mentioning. The battle continued for 23 minutes. When it was over, the alien fleet had lost 147 ships destroyed and another 200 damaged. The 3 human vessels had taken minor damage, but remained fully operational. But the real demonstration was what the humans had done to Nexus Prime itself. The massive space station hung in space, completely undamaged. Not a single kinetic round had struck it, despite the fact that hundreds of projectiles had passed within kilometers of its hull. The message was clear. The humans could have destroyed the center of galactic civilization any time they wanted. Incoming. Transmission, Young A announced. Admiral Taemin appeared on the screen again. His ship was one of the few that had not been hit, but his perfect formation was now a scattered mess of burning wreckage and fleeing vessels. When he spoke, his voice was filled with disbelief. "How?" he asked. "How did you target so many ships simultaneously?" Dong Jun leaned back in his chair. "Admiral, your ships are designed to fight other civilized vessels. Energy weapons, precise targeting, minimal collateral damage. You fight like gentlemen." He gestured to the tactical display, which showed the remains of the alien fleet. "We fight like humans." "This changes nothing," Taemin said, but his voice lacked conviction. "More fleets are coming. The entire galaxy will unite against you." "Will they?" Dong Jun asked. "Admiral, take a look around you. We just destroyed a quarter of your fleet without taking significant damage. How many ships can you afford to lose before your own people start asking questions?" The communication link went silent. On the screen, Admiral Taemin's skin had turned a sickly gray color. Behind him, alien officers were abandoning their stations as more reports of damage came in. "Sir," Major Bin said quietly, "long-range sensors are detecting multiple hyperspace signatures. More alien fleets are arriving." Dong Jun checked the tactical display. 3 more battle groups were approaching, each one almost as large as the force they had just defeated. Within hours, the humans would be facing overwhelming odds again. "Signal all ships," he ordered. "Prepare for hyperspace. Jump." "Sir?" Sora looked confused. "Are we retreating?" "No, Commander. We are advancing to the next phase of operations." The 3 Hurricane-class ships began moving away from Nexus Prime, their engines building power for the jump to hyperspace. But before they left, Dong Jun opened one final communication channel. "Admiral Taemin," he said, "please give my regards. To the Galactic Council. Tell them that humanity is willing to discuss peace terms whenever they are ready to negotiate as equals." The transmission ended just as the 3 ships vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind a shattered alien fleet and a space station full of beings who were beginning to understand that the galaxy had changed forever. On Nexus Prime, communications. Officer Nari worked frantically at her station aboard the Tempest as they jumped away. Her job was to monitor alien communications and relay intelligence to the human fleet. What she was hearing now would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. "Admiral," she reported, "alien command frequencies are going crazy. Some species are demanding immediate retaliation. Others are calling for negotiations. At least 12 worlds are threatening to withdraw from the hegemony if the fighting continues. Dongjun nodded. This was exactly what they had hoped for. The Hurricane-class ships had not just won a battle. They had shattered the myth of hegemony, invincibility. Now the real work could begin. Set course for the Outer Rim, he ordered. It is time to visit some of our new friends. The Battle of Nexus Prime was over, but the war for humanity's future was just beginning.